Welcome back to Chase's Everything Shooting. Today's episode is about my deer feeder and all the problems I've had and what's going on. Are some of them mine? You bet they are. So let's get to it. Well, I want to give you a little bit of my hunting background, and that'll kind of give you a history, and then I'll explain some of the problems that I've run across. And most of them are just my stupidity, but I wanted to kind of give you this background. Well, let's start off. I am a first generation hunter. My father was not a real hunter. He did hunt one time, and I remember that. I was about 8 years old. We lived in Lubbock, Texas, and a bunch of guys he worked with said, "Hey, we're going to go on this pheasant hunt up in Kansas. Do you want to go?" And so my dad bought a shotgun and got the shells, and they went off hunting. Well, he did get lucky, and he brought home, yeah, I think 3 pheasant. And my mom didn't know how to cook it, which was funny, but she figured it out and she cooked the pheasant for us. And I remember as a kid, I'm sitting here and I'm eating this. I'm going, it kind of tastes kind of weird. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's a lead pellet. So everything that we ate of that pheasant, I bet you there were, I'm going to say 20 lead pellets in that pheasant. So it wasn't a great turnout for my dad, and nor was it great for us as his family because we kind of had to eat it and spit the pellets out and kind of just kind of say, "Hey, this is great." But he knew it wasn't good. We knew it wasn't good. That was the first and the last time he ever went hunting. Then we moved to the worst state in the nation, which is California. And I finished high school and went to college. And while I was out there in college, I had some fraternity brothers who said, "Hey, let's go hunting." So we went quail hunting. Well, needless to say, that wasn't a great thing for me because I didn't get a quail because I hadn't been shooting that long, and I couldn't hit anything. So that was kind of a first part of the downer for me. But I always knew I wanted to hunt, and I was big into guns. So I'm gonna hunt. So I started talking to people that lived around me that I knew were hunters. And really, the worst part about it is California doesn't have a lot of hunting leases. Very, very, very few, small percentage. Most hunting is done on public land because, California, they have to own everything. So, in order to hunt on public land, you have to go into a lottery. And the lottery, you may get your name pulled, you may not. You may get your name pulled for an area or a zone that may be 400 miles from you. You have no choice. I mean, you do because you can ask for certain zones, but you can get pulled for other zones. So it really is the flip of the coin if you're going to be able to hunt. So I kind of just backed off and said, you know what, I'm not going to play this game, especially because you had to have a tag for deer, you had to have a tag for bears, you had to have a tag for elk, for pronghorns, for bighorn sheep, for even wild pigs. Now, how stupid is that? But that kind of flip flopped around for a little while because when they got really, really bad, they said, no, it's open season. You can shoot them anytime. And then the animal activists got crazy. And then they said, you can't. So it's been a nightmare for all the farmers. And I went to college with a bunch of guys that are farmers. And trust me, these hogs tear up fields very, very quickly and create thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. So, again, in their stupidity. But you know what? I moved out of California back to Texas, which was phenomenal. And for the last 4 years, I've had my own hunting lease. And I did that for several reasons. Probably the number one reason was is I wanted to be able to hunt with my son. And it's great father and son time. And I really, really enjoy that. And I hope he does too. I think he does. But, it's really, really great. So, we started off and we had a feeder and I rebuilt a feeder, and you'll see in the description below those two videos. Epic failure, epic, epic failure. But I went out and bought a feeder and started using it, and it's worked very, very well. But reading in the magazines and going into YouTube, I heard about all these different things that really attract the deer, and one of them was um, cottonseed. And you should use cottonseed. The deer love cottonseed and all this kind of stuff. So I started last year talking to my son, well, next year, let's try cottonseed. That seems to be one of the things. We'll put that in with the corn. And then a little bit later, we talked about protein and how deer like protein. So I kind of started figuring out, okay, well, maybe we'll do this and we'll try it out. So I'd say probably 4, 5 months ago, I loaded the feeder up, and I feed all year round. And so I loaded it up with corn, then protein, then corn, then some cottonseed. And things were going good. It just seemed to work fine. Everything seemed to work. But you know what? After our first rain, I figured out why I'm not going to use protein in my feeder and I'm not going to use cottonseed. Well, first of all, protein swells and it gets stuck in the feeder mouth. Likewise, the cottonseed swells and gets stuck in the feeder. And so I had gone out a couple of times checking things, and I kind of figured out the deer wasn't eating the cottonseed because most of it was on the ground. And usually, if they're eating, there's nothing left. There's no corn ever left on the ground. So the cottonseed really wasn't working. My biggest problem was it was clogging my feeder. And because we've had some rains and the feeder gets condensation inside of it, all of a sudden those proteins in the cottonseed swell up, and I can't get it to feed the corn and all the rest of the stuff. My mistake, because when I talked to a couple of other of my buddies, they said, no, you got to use a protein feeder. And you don't really want to do that because they'll come and eat all times of the night, but they won't be there for the day for hunting. So, okay, I learned a lesson there. So, I took the feeder down. I dropped, I'm going to say probably about 60 pounds of corn and other things into a tote because I couldn't put it back in there. I didn't want to create problems. So I took my feeder apart, put it back together, got all the corn out of it, and I just put corn in it. Well, I have to say, I have a Molitere, I believe. I probably butchered that. It's a plastic feeder. And, I bought it in haste because my failure that you probably will go see early down in the descriptions the feeder didn't work. And so I needed to get a feeder out there. So I bought this. It's a plastic feeder. And so this year I've really noticed it. It's starting to buckle and there's gaps around the seals, the legs where they go into the to the feeder are starting, it's a plastic area that's starting to crack and break. It's only 3 years old, but it's starting to fall apart. Now, the best part about it is the spinner and the mechanism and the timer. Phenomenal, great quality, works fantastic. But it doesn't make any difference if that works, if it won't allow the product to be dispersed. And it's puckering on all the edges, and there's just issues with it. So I'm learning a big lesson in this. And my lesson is, again, buy high quality, buy good quality, and it'll last you forever. But I thought this was a quick and cheap way to do it, and I got burned, I have to say. The big part is I've talked to 4 or 5 other of my hunter friends that have had the same feeder I have, and they've all said, yeah, we've replaced every one of them. They all cracked, they all buckled, they all had problems. So I'm not saying that it isn't a good product. It isn't a good product for me. Is it cheap? Yeah, it is. Is it very good quality? I don't believe so. But those are my opinions. And you take a look at it and see what you think. Thank you for watching. I hope this has kind of enlightened you a little bit. It's kind of a soul bearing thing for me because you know what? Who likes to tell everybody that they screwed up and they didn't do it right? But hey, you know what? It is what it is, and this is how we all learn. Please like and subscribe.